we just got what is possibly the final Nintendo Direct for the Switch's lifetime, certainly the last summer Direct, and honestly, damn, what a way of closing out the Switch's life cycle. This was a packed Direct. We knew going in it was going to be 40 minutes long, but there were questions of, is there one game they're going to focus a while on? What exactly is going to be the division of time? And we just ended up getting 40 packed minutes of game reveals and updates. By my count, we hit about almost 30 games talked about. That's not including stuff coming to NSO, as well as games that have already released and are just getting updates in some form. And there was just not enough time for me to rant about every single thing they talked about, but there are a handful that I really want to focus on and bring more attention to. And the first is, of course, the very surprising opening reveal of a new Mario and Luigi game. This is a series that hasn't had a new entry in, I want to say, 9 years, maybe almost a full decade. And part of the reason for that is because the original dev for it, Alpha Dream, is no longer around, which raises a couple questions in regards to this next upcoming one, as far as who's developing it and whether or not we're going to see any shifts as a result of that change. But the fact that we are getting a brand new entry in Mario and Luigi, especially after getting remakes of Super Mario RPG and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, it just feels like Nintendo is going all in on bringing back Mario RPGs as hard as they can. Going into this Direct, there were so many rumors and theories and just people talking about what stuff they thought we might see at this Direct. And some of that proved true, which we'll talk about, but I don't think I saw anyone talk about the possibility of Mario and Luigi making a comeback. And what a awesome way to open the show, not only with revealing it, but also the fact that it's coming out this year on November 7th. Skipping ahead, next big reveal that was huge for me at least, Fantasian. If you're not familiar with this title, this was a game made by Mistwalker, led by Hironobu Sakaguchi, the father of the Final Fantasy franchise, and for the longest time it has been trapped on iOS. It was an Apple Arcade game. It was one of the first big titles they really pushed as being part of Apple Arcade. It was basically the one Apple Arcade game I actually cared about, at least when the service was first starting up, and for a long time no one was sure if that game was ever going to find its way to other platforms. And here we are. Personally, it's one that I actually never got around to finishing. I started it many times on mobile, and that's part of why I'm so excited for it to come to new systems, because now I can give it another proper attempt on something that I just honestly play a lot more on. Now, speaking of RPGs, while I want to mostly talk about reveals in order, I do want to skip ahead real quick to one that is Dragon Quest III HD 2D. This is something that Square had announced years ago, and we hadn't really seen any news on for a while, and it has now been officially completely revealed with some bits of gameplay that just look honestly so gorgeous. And to be honest, I've actually already played it, at least for a little bit. I got the opportunity with them to play the game for about an hour. I have already uploaded a video with my thoughts on that on my side channel, Next Side Quest, so make sure to go check that out. But something that I was not aware of after having played that demo and also got revealed at this Direct is that not only are we getting a remake of 3, getting remakes for 1 and 2, which are going to be released as their own separate collection, which makes a lot of sense. 3 is honestly a much meatier game than either 1 or 2. They're both quite a bit shorter games, so having them as one collection and then 3 really getting to shine on its own, I am just very excited for. Ever since Square started messing with this whole HD 2D aesthetic back with the first Octopath Traveler, a lot of people have wanted to see more games remade in that style, and we got the Live Alive remake, which no one expected and never even came out in the West in the first place. So getting a bigger, more classic series with Dragon Quest in that, beautiful. Speeding through a couple smaller announcements real quick, there was a new game called Mio, which stands for Memories in Orbit. That was a 2D platformer. That grabbed my attention. I want to learn more about that one, but I really liked the art style for it. Hello Kitty Island Adventure is coming to the Switch, and that actually is something I did get a chance to play a little bit of at Summer Games Fest, and in fact, I think I was the one person they had that whole weekend who asked where Big Challenges was, which I take pride in that fact. The next really big announcement after a bunch of these smaller ones is the return of Donkey Kong Country Returns. It's not a new Donkey Kong game yet. That is a franchise that I know people want to get a whole new entry in sometime soon. It's me, I'm people. But Country Returns is a fantastic game. I absolutely loved it on the Wii. For some reason, I don't actually even have my Wii copy anymore. I realized after seeing that trailer. So this is a great excuse to pick that back up. And that plus Tropical Freeze on a single platform is just going to be a wonderful library for the series. Speeding through some other announcements, we did get a very quick look at Luigi's Mansion Collection 2 HD, which we already basically know enough about at this point, so Nintendo just kind of wanted to give it one last push before it fully releases very soon. They announced and shadow dropped Metal Slug Attack Reloaded. Darkest Dungeon got dated for July 15th on the system. We got a bunch of NSO updates. In particular, Legend of Zelda 4 Swords and Metroid Zero Mission are coming to the Game Boy library, which is great. And then, probably in the most Nintendo wording possible, they also talked about Nintendo 64 mature 17+ games, which more importantly included Turok and Perfect Dark, which makes a lot of sense. The Xbox showcase focused on how Perfect Dark is coming back under them finally, so Nintendo having that tie-in of bringing back Perfect Dark on NSO makes perfect sense. One franchise I did not expect to see a new entry in out of nowhere is Phantom Brave. We're getting a brand new Phantom Brave title with The Lost Hero. Capcom announced a new fighting game collection that's entirely focused on their Marvel vs. Capcom games, which is wonderful. And then we got back to some first-party announcements with a new Mario Party, which does look wonderful. But the one thing that I'm probably gushing the most about is the reveal that came after that, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. We finally have a major Nintendo Zelda game where Zelda is the main character. You know, Zelda has been playable in other titles, been playable in stuff like Hyrule Warriors, Smash Brothers, obviously. She did get her own starring role in some of the Philips CDI games, which doesn't entirely count for obvious reasons. But this is the first major Nintendo title where she is taking the lead. Visually, it is going after the same style we saw from the Link's Awakening remake, but gameplay-wise is a major revision. Because Zelda is the lead, they didn't just want to do, it's Zelda with a sword. Instead, she has this whole playstyle that revolves around being able to capture objects and even monsters and then use them herself. So she can do things like solving platforming puzzles by bringing out items to climb on top of, summoning monsters to fight other monsters. You could summon a big old rock to throw at enemies. It looks like it's a very interesting mix-up on the core Zelda formula where it has that top-down style and aesthetic of the older games, but forces you to maybe focus a little bit more on creative solutions versus just swinging a sword or other weapons at things. While I do understand why Nintendo closed on the game they did, I was very surprised this wasn't like a one more thing stinger or just a surprise reveal. Showing up in the middle of the show just completely caught me off guard, and honestly, as far as completely brand new reveals goes, probably the peak announcement for me out of this direct. Also, just like with Mario and Luigi at the start, both of these games are slated for coming out this year as well, with Super Mario Party Jamboree launching October 17th, and Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom coming out September 26th. Also tied into the Legend of Zelda game, we are also getting one final, probably, special edition for the Nintendo Switch Lite, which is Zelda themed. It's golden, it's got some cool patterns on it. This is a style we've seen Nintendo do over the course of a couple different systems. I'm probably gonna end up getting it just to unbox it and show you all. It's very interesting, they're just kind of sneaking this one in the very end when we already know they're talking about the next system happening next year, but you know what? It's Zelda, it's gonna work. Burning through a couple other quick announcements, Just Dance 25. Obviously, we have to get one of those every single year because it continues to do well with the Switch's motion controls. We got another look at the Hobbit Shire game, Lego Horizon. Stray is coming to the Switch, which isn't looking like the prettiest version of the game, but if you haven't had the opportunity to play it on other platforms, hey, this is a way you can do it on the go handheld. And then we had a run of a couple different announcements that I would say are kind of mid-level hype with very specific audiences that I happen to be a part of for the most part. Capcom has been on a run of doing collections for their Ace Attorney games, and they announced a duology of the Investigation games, which were the ones starring Miles Edgeworth. We never actually got the second one in the US. The first one came out and is pretty expensive to track down now. Second one never got translated, so both of those together in one collection coming out on the Switch is wonderful. We got a new game announced from the team that worked on Danganronpa called The 100 Line, which is a tactics game, so that immediately has my attention because I just love me some grid-based tactics RPGs. Square continues to surprise me pleasantly by actively supporting the Saga franchise. We just got a new entry earlier this year, and they've now announced that Romancing Saga 2 is getting a remake, not a port, not a director's cut, just a straight up full-blown remake for the game coming out, which is not something I would have expected, and it's slated for this year, coming out October 24th. And then of course, the big closing moment for this direct, the one thing that people have been clamoring forever for since it was first teased at the very first summer direct of the Switch's life cycle, Metroid Prime 4, which we now have the full title of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which is looking incredible. The bits of gameplay we got to see just looked absolutely fantastic. I think the one thing that did surprise me about this reveal is the fact that it's not going to be this year. It's not going to be a major holiday release for the Switch. It is instead slated for sometime in 2025, which is causing some people to put on their conspiracy theory caps and talk about whether or not it's going to be a cross-gen release. You know, maybe with the Switch successor, it's going to be a game that gets a Switch version and a version for that next system. I'm honestly not too sure at this moment. I think that is a possibility, but not one that I'm feeling super strong about at the moment. But we'll see, especially depending on when in 25 that ends up being. I think it could end up being just like a one final strong release for the system before the next successor comes out, but you never know. I am also surprised that as part of that reveal, we didn't get news on Prime 2 or 3 remasters. Prime 1 Remastered was released last year as part of a shadow drop, and it feels like there was kind of that room to, release the other remasters to keep people updated on the series and play all of them getting ready for 4, but at least as of right now, no news on those, but we do know Prime 4 is officially real and coming very soon. Honestly, top to bottom, absolutely phenomenal direct. I think this was a great way of them closing out the last full year of the Nintendo Switch. I'm actually planning on doing a ranking video talking about all the summer directs and how they all stack compared to each other. And while I'm not gonna give this one a final ranking just yet, it's probably gonna be on the higher side. The only thing really for me, as far as something that I hoped to see, but ended up not happening. There's been plenty of rumors about the next Fire Emblem game. There's been talk of a Fire Emblem 4 remake. I was really hoping that would make an appearance at this direct, and that just didn't happen, but that's fine because everything else we got was fantastic. Mario and Luigi just coming out of nowhere. Honestly, just what a damn good way to end the life cycle of the Switch. So that was just a quick recap and mostly me just gushing about all the great announcements we got at this latest Nintendo Direct. Again, I did get the opportunity to actually play Dragon Quest III HD 2D. That is a video I've put on my side channel, so I'll make sure to link that here as well if you want to check that out for some more in-depth thoughts on that. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button to let me know, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you all later.